We meet in the space between parts. It is a space of inertia, where we suspend all limiting ideas of human potential in an authentic effort to move from darkness to light by discovering the true nature of reality.
Welcome back to the Absolute Reason podcast. This is where we develop and explore spiritual intelligence. But what is spiritual intelligence, you may ask? Well, it is a developed understanding of what is this creation and what exactly is my relationship to it. In part 1 of this 12-part program, I had a deeper look and explanation on what exactly are the 3 baseline principles that actually support us as individuals as we further explore our spiritual intelligence. These baseline principles are the threefold nature of things. This is the macrocosm, that which is happening outside of myself. Then we had a look at the threefold nature of the individual, the will, knowledge, and action. This is your microcosm, everything that happens inside of you. And then number 3 was the scale of man. And this is all about how we operate between our extreme potentials as we function between the world outside of ourselves and the world within us. I also went further to give you a more simple one-word explanation for these 3 principles. On the threefold nature of things, that which is outside of us, I explained this as the atmosphere. The threefold nature of the individual, the microcosm, that which is within, I explained that as our aura. And then the scale of man is all about our potentials. So in part 1, we learned that there are 3 principles that stabilizes us as individuals, with us exploring all of this new hololo woo-woo concepts of spiritual intelligence. And we left with an understanding that we have potentials. Our potentials create our aura, and our aura has an effect on the atmosphere in which we are walking into. It was in part 2 of this program, however, where we began to observe that which is closest to us, the human body vessel. We started off with definitions on the evolutionary process. What exactly is meditation? What is action? And then what is karma? I then moved on to explaining what are the 4 walls of the body vessel. These 4 walls are hunger, thirst, sleep, and dying. But I ran out of time, so I never got to go into the 5 pranas, the 5 vital forces of the body vessel. And that is exactly what we will be tackling today. The 5 pranas, just as a little bit of a taster, is the eyes, the ears, speech, mind, and touch. Yes, it's about sensory perception, but it is also about how those senses connect with that which is outside of us, the macrocosm. How do we connect with the sun, the moon, the earth, with light and with space? Well, hang in there, because today you will be leaving with a deeper knowledge on just exactly how you form a relationship with the world around you, with reality. I am Joan, your freaky philosopher, and you are my absolute reason. As a quick reminder of the four walls of the body vessel, I invited my good friend Spruis just to give us a little bit of a visual effect so that we can understand by thinking in pictures just exactly how all of these abstract ideas and concepts actually form the basis of our reality. So we had a look at the Chandogya Upanishad, where it teaches that hunger and thirst are a coupled force. Why I say that is because it teaches that you need water to liquefy the food. Food, once liquefied, then moves up into the mind of the individual. What you eat, you become in mind. Then we had a look at sleep and death. And although the Chandogya Upanishad didn't really put it out like that, it is my observation that sleep and death would also be a coupled force. How can I say that? Well, quite simply put, the Chandogya Upanishad actually describes the concept. It says that when you are sleeping, your mind becomes or your body becomes unconscious, because your mind wants to then return to the cause of its effect. It wants to return to absolute reality. That's where we go when we are sleeping, when we are dreaming. But it is during sleep that we still have this metaphorical cord that is attached to the physical body, which means the mind will return to the physical state. Yes, dissatisfied, because it couldn't really return to absolute reality, but it returns to the physical body, and that is then when you wake up. In a death state, however, there is no longer this cord that connects you to your physical being, which means your mind and all of the subtle aspects of who you are, your spirit, the actual spiritual being that we are, the being that's having a physical experience, will then return to absolute reality. In other words, that cord is separate and you receive liberation to whatever extent your karma allows. Finally, the time has come for us to explore hunger as a concept in spiritual intelligence. The Chandogya Upanishad says, through this knowledge, everything is satisfied by the meditative consumption of food. And I hope that in that very small quotation, you had at least 3 words pop out and smack you around a little bit. What exactly is this knowledge they are referring to? This is the knowledge of spiritual intelligence, of cause and effect between the macrocosm and the microcosm. And then it says, everything is satisfied. So that everything means that we are seeking satisfaction not merely for ourselves, but for everything, the micro and the macrocosm. But then it says satisfaction. Now, I don't think I have to go too much into what exactly or how good it feels to have a plate of food in front of you that will satisfy you as an individual. But now today we will learn how that satisfaction will not only be transferred onto you as an individual, but through a meditative way we will consume that food that will then serve to satisfy both me, myself, the microcosm, and then also satisfy the macrocosm. So it is everything that will be satisfied by the end of our meal. Before we go deep dive into hunger, here are a couple of helpful tips to keep in your back pocket as you further develop your spiritual intelligence. Number 1, when we speak of spiritual intelligence, we explore a deeper understanding of the cause behind the effects of what we see in our environment and within us. So it's all about discovering the cause of the effect. It is why it's also easy to apply and not a very strenuous linear application of a to-do list. Number 2, it helps to think in pictures. Develop this. Once you see a picture, you don't even need to read words or see the linear aspect of what I am explaining. The picture in your mind's eye will show you everything you need to see. And number 3, you will never know everything. Part of why I love spiritual intelligence so much is because I never get bored. And as we go through this knowledge, please understand, you will never know everything. I don't know everything. What we want is at least a baseline from which we can discover more. Now we can go deep dive into hunger. The Chandogya Upanishad teaches that the 5 pranas are like the 5 tongues of a flaming fire. It is one single force that is working as 5 different vital energies. And this is what prana means. It means vital force. These words, prana, vyana, apana, samana, udana, these are Sanskrit words, and Sanskrit is a study in itself, but I do bring it into what I teach as a relativity from which you can perhaps go and learn Sanskrit. It's incredibly beneficial for you as an individual. But for now, I just introduce the basic terms of how the Chandogya Upanishad actually teaches it. But what we will focus on will be the actual English relativities, also provided by the Chandogya Upanishad. So let us have a look at this flaming prana fire force that is within us as individuals. And how exactly does that then relate to the food that I eat? And then ultimately, how does that connect me to the macrocosm? Actually, the sun, the moon, the earth, light and space. Show me the bridge. Show me the connection. Hold on to your hats, because we're about to get abstract, people. The Chandogya Upanishad teaches that so each tongue of the fire, each flame seeks to be satisfied. And as you can recall what we said about hunger, it is all about satisfaction. We want to feel satisfied. You can eat 2 plates of food and still feel dissatisfied. Why is that? Well, we learn all about that when we observe the 5 pranas as this flaming fire with the 5 tongues. Let's move on. As every river is connected to the ocean, every prana is connected to the cosmic force. Thus, through the prana, we touch the cosmic border and invoke the universal being. When the prana is satisfied, the Upanishad says that due to an inward connection, the eyes are satisfied. When the eyes are satisfied, the sun is satisfied, because he is the deity of the eyes. And when the sun is satisfied, the whole atmosphere is satisfied, because he is the presiding deity of the entire atmosphere. After that quotation, I'm sure you can understand why my guidance was that it is helpful to think in pictures. It is also incredibly helpful to accept that we will never know everything. Why do I bring that up specifically now? Well, I don't want you as an individual to feel offended by the reference that the sun is referred to here as a deity. Some religions do not see different deities. They see one God alone. It's merely a manner of speaking that we want to relate to right now. That manner of speaking gives personalities and certain aspects to the planetary system. It is how we get to know that planet and its personality, if you will. And it is through that knowing and that learning and that gaining of knowledge that a relationship is formed. That is ultimately what we want to do. We cannot eat for the satisfaction of the universal being without forming a relationship with the universal being. And it is helpful to look at the planetary system as a deity system. These are entities that are in charge. They are the boss of certain aspects within the natural creation of the environment. So the sun, clearly, the sun would be symbolizing the eyes, because we can't see that well when the sun isn't up. So it makes sense to link the eyes to the sun. And then the Upanishad teaches that when the sun is satisfied, the whole atmosphere is satisfied. There's a direct link with actual science, with astronomy, and astrology also, but from a different angle. But there's a definite link with astronomy, because we are referring to the atmosphere, and we cannot observe the atmosphere without observing the influence of the sun on our atmosphere. And we can only see when the sun is up, when there is light. And that is why the sun is then linked to our eyes, and our eyes are linked to the number one prana force. That is then one of the flames that we wish to satisfy as we consume our food. The second flaming tongue that we wish to satisfy is Vyana. Let's go see what the Upanishad says about that. Vyana is responsible for the movement of the bloodstream in the canals, etc., etc. With Vyana, there are internal connections that in a mystical way satisfies the ears. And when the ears are satisfied, everything that is around us in the form of directions from which sounds come and impinge upon the ears is also satisfied, right up to the moon. Then, as a result, the whole atmosphere and all the directions are satisfied, and then all the causes thereof are also satisfied at once. Smoking jelly beans, people. What did I just say there? Don't worry about it. That's why you've got your freaky philosopher. Let me dig into it and simplify it for you. So the Vijnana Prana, flaming fire, tongue force that we want to satisfy, is a focus on the bloodstream in the canals. Now, when you think about your canals and your bloodstream, it flows in all sorts of directions within the body. And that is why the Vijnana bloodstream prana is then linked with directions. Doesn't it make sense? And we cannot observe our directions, what's in front of us, behind us, next to us, around us, in other words, without bringing in our ears, the ability to hear. We can hear all aspects around us, but we can only see in front of us. And this is why the Upanishad links our Vijnana Prana force, the bloodstream which flows in all directions, with the directions of our environment. And it is in doing so that it also brings in our hearing, the sense of being able to hear. That makes total sense for me. And then, but what doesn't necessarily make complete sense is that it says so we will then, with intention alone, we will satisfy the prana force in our bloodstream. We will satisfy the directions around us. If that sounds like your aura, you are entirely correct. And we will satisfy the sound, our hearing sense. We will satisfy that also. But then the Upanishad goes in and it says we will bring satisfaction all the way right up to the moon. Now that's bloody interesting, and also a topic for another day. It is such a vast concept that I cannot go into it right now. But don't you worry about it. I will go into the moon. That sounds funny. I will go into the moon concept in a podcast that I will place later. Anyways, let's move on. Then as a result, the whole atmosphere and all the directions are satisfied. If you eat in this way, don't be shocked if people actually stop eating their own food and just watch you eat. It is because when you begin to observe the cosmic being in this way and you form a relationship with it, you have a massive impact on the atmosphere around you and bringing satisfaction to that atmosphere. On we go. Okie dokie, let's move on to number 3, the third prana force, which is apana. Let's see what the Upanishad teaches us about what happens when we satisfy the apana prana force. I'm such a poet. Let's go on. When the apana is satisfied, speech is satisfied. When speech is satisfied, fire is satisfied, which is the superintending principle over speech. It is when fire is satisfied, that which is the source of fire, from which fire arises, the very earth is then also satisfied. So let me get my freak on and explain the apana prana force to you. When the apana is satisfied, speech is satisfied. So let's go look at this. Number 1, we looked at our food. That was the eye. Number 2, we started moving towards our food. We picked up the fork and now we're going to consume it. It was a point of direction, and that was then our blood canals. But then we took the food into our mouth, and that is where we speak from. And this is why the apana force is all about speech. But speech is then linked with fire. If you don't understand how that link happens, well, listen to my podcast. I am considered to have fiery speech. Now, it could have something to do with the fact that I'm a Boer and we love our chilies and our curries and our garlic food. These are all considered as fire type foods, which means it will fire up your speech. I didn't have this knowledge when I ate all that fiery food, but it has definitely had an effect on me because you can hear I'm full of fire. So when we eat, we want to satisfy this fire principle within our body, and that will then express through our speech. It is when we are ignorant of this link between speech and fire and with what we consume, that speech will then turn into, let's say, rude language or foul language, swear words. I swear, I promise you, I swear. I can't stand here and tell you I don't use swear words. I use swear words, but it is in a far more measured way. And we don't want to necessarily exclude anything. What we want to do is we want to find harmony with everything. So when the prana is satisfied, your speech will also find satisfaction, both to those who hear it and you as the one who speaks it. But let us not forget about that ultimate link. Fire, then, the Upanishad teaches, actually arises from the earth. And if you wonder how and why our children are so forceful about save the planet, it is because on a spiritual level, their souls are being pushed to observe and gain a deeper understanding as to how they connect to planet Earth. Teach them these things about the 5 pranas, and your child will feel less restless because they will be satisfied with finding this connection to earth that they are naturally and restlessly seeking for. On we go to learn more about the 4th prana flame, and this is the samana force. When the samana is satisfied, the mind is satisfied. The samana is the central operating force, and that immediately acts upon the mind. When the mind is satisfied, everything that is connected, the rain and the heavens, are also satisfied. All things that are the support of all these phenomena are satisfied. Good thing your freaky philosopher is here. Let me get my freak on, peeps, and explain this a little bit deeper. So we learned that when we first explored the topic of hunger, that what we eat directly moves into our mind. So we think as what we eat. I explained that when you have a vegetarian diet alone, you have a milder temperament, whereas if you bring meat into your diet, you have a bit more aggression within your system. This is all relative to the individual. But it is the samana prana that actually teaches us that samana is the central operating force. So if you were to look at what exactly is it that then moves the food that I eat into my mind, we know water dissolves it. But what is the force that moves it up into my mind? Well, that is the samana prana force. And it is with this knowledge that you can observe this link. And it is when you observe this link, you can honor that link. When you honor the link between the samana prana force, the food you eat, and the mind that operates you, that you begin to satisfy the cosmic being. And that cosmic being, when you, just with intention and observation alone, when you observe the samana force in that way, then the rain in the heavens begin to feel satisfied. And everything on a causal level begins to share in your satisfaction. And bada bang, all of a sudden we are connected to our cosmic being merely by eating our plate of food. Last but not least, let's go look at the Udana Prana force. The Upanishad teaches that when Udana is satisfied, the tactile sense is satisfied. So when air is satisfied, its abode, sky and space is also satisfied. And it is when this satisfaction is affected that everything in the air and in space is also satisfied. Wow, man, my golly gosh. Humanity is truly a beautiful point of consciousness that we just through mere observation and gained knowledge, we can, by observing the Udana Prana force, we can bring satisfaction to space itself. And space today, in this time and space, as we are in the 21st century, 2023, there's a lot of friction in our space. And just imagine if we come together and through mere observation and intention, we as humanity join up as with our cosmic being, and then we can actually begin to make a difference in our own space and time. We do so with an understanding of these 5 prana forces. And with the one or the final step of this podcast, I am going to show you how we can bring all of these parts together with what you can call a prayer or a mantra before we actually begin to consume our food. This mantra can then bring all of this knowledge together in a focused point of organic attention and intention for the goodness of all, in coordination and cooperation with both what is happening inside of me and what is happening outside of me. And this does bring us to the end of discovering the 5 prana forces, this fire that rages within us, and its 5 flaming licks. I hope you understand this a little bit better, but I will now go in and close it off just in a very simple way as to how we bring all of these parts together and actually begin to bring change within our world and that outside of us. This is why it's so important for us to always remember to listen to our elders. Our parents, now I'm 41 now, our parents always taught us, you must pray before you eat. Most of us have actually let go of this practice because it just didn't make all that sense to us. Plus the TV is on and that show is about to start. But with the discovering of the knowledge of the Upanishads, doesn't it now make a hell of a lot more sense to have a prayer before you consume your food? This prayer or a mantra, whatever you want to call it, could be just a poem I say before I eat, but it is about bringing together all the parts of your knowledge in a way where you honor all of the parts. And then you begin with that fixed focus, that meditative state. You place an intent onto the food and the actual action of consuming the food. This is when you directly then link with the cosmic being. And that is our outcome. That is what we want. We want to connect with the cosmic being, because then we begin to bob and weave that karmic cycle that keeps knocking us off of our feet. We want to be connected to the oneness of all. We are going to eat through a meditative state by placing our intention onto our food and our body vessel with this mantra. Let me say it, or let me read it, or let me pray it. Which one? Whatever one floats your boat, man. As long as you pick up what I'm putting down. Let's go into it. I named it, or I titled it, and I said, the focused intent before food is consumed. That is the outcome that we want. Within the four walls of this body vessel, I offer this food I am about to eat into the fire belly of man, converted into sacred seed. Rise up through the cosmic being that is me, a rightly conducted human activity. Satisfied by the consumption of this food, sun, moon, earth, light and space, we thank you for this grace. As you can see, this prayer over our food and our body before we eat is a little bit different to rub-a-dub-dub, thanks for the grub. There is deep connection and intention within this prayer. Now, I just placed this here because I think there may be a whole lot of people out there who don't even have a prayer that they can get from their parents or something in a Bible or something in a holy book that they wish to use. So this is here for you to use if you want to. But in general, if you have a prayer that you say, continue it if you want to, or try this one out every now and then. But even if you say a different prayer, because that is your tradition, your culture, and your religion, please just have that, just think in pictures and feel in your heart the cosmic being and the connection that you have with the sun, the moon, the earth, light and space. You have a direct link with your first 5 bites of your food are linked to the 5 prana forces, and so ultimately the cosmic being. So in a nutshell, when you begin to consume food through this meditative state, where we not only focus on the satisfaction of ourselves, but we begin to relate that satisfaction to the macrocosm as well. This means that we're not merely doing this meditative practice for our own eyes, ears, speech, mind and touch, but we do it because we have this intention and the gained knowledge that there is a direct link with the sun, the moon, the earth, light and space. Now, personally, I have been practicing this for about 6 or 7 years, and I have come across a couple of benefits I've gained through this practice. How do I know I gained it through this practice? Well, because nothing else explains the benefits that I see in my life. Number 1, my eyesight has gotten better. I wear glasses. I've been wearing glasses since age 12, but my lens strength has reduced, which means my eyesight has gotten better. My ears, I no longer have these horrible and terrible ear infections that I used to get. My speech has improved. Yeah, I don't swear that much anymore, but I have also come to express myself a little bit better. My mind is most certainly sharper. I used to be a note master. I would take notes about everything. I used to be in sales. If you see me in a sales call, you will see me making notes. After my sales call, I will go and process those notes, send it on to my internal assistant, and then she will run with my notes to complete the process. All of this had to do with my own sense of confidence in my memory. But since I've been consuming food through this meditative state, my memory has increased significantly. My sense of touch has also become more sensitive, and that's why I call myself, I'm a little sensitive. When I walk into a building, I can feel certain things. Some things don't gel with me very well, and that's why you will basically then see me head for the door. I'm working on a way of harmonizing this increased sensitivity around my touch, and when I get to a conclusion on that, I will most certainly share it with you. But for now, I hope that at least gives you an idea of the benefits that you stand to gain. You will have a much better every day, and that is ultimately why I teach. I want to help you improve your every day. And that's it, folks, for the first 3 parts. I am Joan, your freaky philosopher, and you are and forever will be my absolute reason.